up, y'all, and welcome to tonight's Skeptic and Ranting. Scientific discovery reveals God's existence and refutes.
Well, let's hear about this breakthrough discovery.
I know, exactly. It's the latest paper. Where, yes, we are watching a video from the channel Eric Metaxas on TVN called John Lennox Scientific Discovery Reveals God's Existence and Refutes Atheism. So won't you join James W. and myself, Amy Newman, for a most revealing good time. Oh my. What's up, everyone? And that's right. Welcome to tonight's Skeptic and Ranting. And thank you for joining us on the intertubes. If you're feeling fancy, please don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, all of the other fantastic things, the sunnies, the shares, any more mom and dad jokes that I have. Also, bar mark DVD number 5. Ken Hoven. We're watching another one tonight. Like I was just talking about James. This John Lennox guy is another piece of work. But you could also hit that bell icon, which once you do, you can see our premieres or watch me be late. What is up, everybody? Sending so much love to Robin Webster, Beamsy, and Sinister Porpoise, and everybody, Dave Rogers, and God equals the square root of -1, and Ian Davenport. Woohoo! And everybody, I hope you are having a fantastic night out there. We are Skeptic and Ranting on the scientific discovery of revealing God existence and refuting atheism. We're going to become theists tonight. Oh.
Likely.
Exactly. And we are a skeptic channel.
A few times, that claim, that most notably from
James
the preacher Perry, who guaranteed us.
Exactly. A full stream. We had to sit the whole way. Wasn't that an 11 hour stream?
Yeah, it was like 11 hours.
Oh, yeah.
It was unbearable. With
And
Peter, if you remember.
Yes, indeed. Well, that was the kicker. That was that we basically had a drag-out match for 11 hours.
Because Peter, he could go. You let Peter go, he'll go.
The Energizer Bunny.
Oh, yeah, we lost Peter. Dan Dennett today. That's true.
Dan Dennett died today?
Dan Dennett died today, yeah. Yep.
That's the last... No, that's not. Sam's still here. Let me not push him out into the grave yet.
Dawkins is still alive.
And Dawkins still alive. Yeah. It's just Hitchens. Hitchens was so great that I thought everyone died. There we go.
He was the first force. He was like
the first one.
The leader.
First, yeah. I always view Dan Dennett as the softer one. However, he had interesting ideas.
More like, the more soft-spoken, intellectual.
But still not as much in the debate circuit. But I'm trying to remember his very specific qualia. He is the one who coined qualia, which I am very torn on. I am not sure where to put my hat into that ring. It's basically supposed to be the notion of us feeling our physical sensations when we're actually experiencing them. We're having qualia, the state of conscious. Maybe. Anybody have thoughts in chat? I'd love to hear about them. But it was at least interesting to read about. I have his book somewhere. Dawkins, someone I take even less seriously on trans issues than J.K. Rowling. I'm going to keep on saying it. I'm the only one that says it, and I stand by that. Sometimes comedians are canaries in coal mines, okay? This woman writes gay male fan fiction, or just fiction. She writes under a male's name, and she got, this became a thing later on when she got discovered, but she keeps on writing under that male's name. Once again, that would normally not mean anything. Using a pseudonym is fine. And women have, historically pretended to be men because of, the societies that they were in. But, it's just a little weird now when you're a billionaire to have to still do that. But whatever, And then Dawkins. Yeah, I know. I don't know why. Yeah, everybody. The trans thing.
Even the Age of Sails, women would they would dress as men to join like the Navy, join the Merchant Marine, where normally they wouldn't allow women to serve on ships like that at the time.
Sure.
But there were women doing it, and they would, if they found out, they would let them off at the nearest port. But a lot of times the people, the other sailors, they were a normal, good part of the crew. Like they were a valuable person to have on the ship. They weren't like dead weight who wasn't doing anything. They were respectable sailors. You never would have known they were a woman until you see them without their shirt on, and then, whoa, okay.
But sending so much love out to Dan's family, and yeah, that's the other thing. I'll just say one more thing about that, is that probably one of the hardest things to deal with within our community and to deal with as humans is death. And so I see a lot of people stay in religion because of that sort of comfort, and we have to give an alternative because we have to grieve. Grieving is the price of love, and it's healthy, and yeah. But also on that note, happy times.
Doesn't mean we're going to be able to take the sting out of death. Partially, it still has negative connotations, but on the flip side of it, when I was a believer, and you would know people who you knew were not Christians, and they would die, and you'd have to worry that, oh my gosh, that person's in hell. Or were they really a Christian? Were they not? Are they in hell forever now? Because maybe I should have tried to get them to convert to Christianity. I never really did that. Is it my fault they're in hell? Is Jesus going to be mad at me because, like, oh, look, you knew this guy didn't believe, and you were friends with him for 5 years. You never tried to get him to go to church or anything. It's your fault.
Should have tried harder.
Are you? Yeah.
Exactly.
What kind of person are you? You don't care about other people.
Yeah.
Normally, if you're harassing somebody who's your friend about something they don't agree with you on all the time, eventually they're not going to really want to be around you.
That's probably true.
Like if Amy had a friend who is like, oh, I would just wish you would quit this stupid fucking trans shit and just go back to being, who you really are or something, she would probably not want to hang around that person very often because they're not respecting her as a person, her beliefs, and They're not yet
Yeah,
get over
I
that.
don't know. I don't know what is with this resurgence with trans. I hope that this issue dies down in the coming years. But they're holy books, very specifically. You know, they don't mince words. It says very much, kill us. It's not like, don't support them, don't let them marry. It's like, hey, gather around, everyone gather a stone, let's kill them. Objectively, morally good.
I mean, Amy, it's an abomination to God, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
God gave you a PP, and you're going to use that PP appropriately.
That's
you're not
right.
going to mutilate it, except when God tells you to mutilate. Then you can, but otherwise,
yes.
no. Do not even think about it.
Don't cut children, except for cut children. Kind of like right after they come out the womb.
Yeah, they won't remember. It'll be fine.
Exactly.
I don't remember mine, so it must not have been that bad.
Why would God? You would think that God would just take care of that one already.
Like,
it's
why intelligently design the human penis to have that flap of skin over the tip if he wanted his people to just remove it anyway because he liked how it looked better without it? I don't know.
To prove how much you are loyal to God. Oh, well, my goodness. I'm excited. I want to join this religion. How do we do it? Well, all right. So we have a sharp stone. And you know how you have a penis? All right, let's start to put two and two together here.
See, you joke like that, but I believe that's intentional. I believe that pretty much most of the arbitrary rules in the Old Testament are just to make the religion seem unappealing to the other nations, because the Hebrews, the ancient Israelite nation, they found themselves in a contentious region of the world where their neighbors, many of them more numerous and powerful than them, and they were deathly afraid of their culture, their identity being extinct due to inbreeding and mixing with. So they made these silly arbitrary rules so that people would not want to be part of that.
It just makes me think, thousands of years ago, there was a drunk Jewish scribe just sitting there, just going, cut your ding dong in a talking bush.
Yeah, you would really have to be
talk too.
You would really have to be fucking gun-ho about it if you're gonna cut part of your dick off to join this religion. But it says several times in the Old Testament, this is God's desire to have a peculiar people, a weird, a different. Like, why wear these tassels on the side? Just so other people see it. Like, what are these fucks going around with these silly tassels? That is no other purpose other than basically to make it look silly to foreigners.
Oh, I was muted. And we have a $20 super chat. Thank you so very much, Luke. Woo-hoo. Just had an argument with my Christian mom about homosexuality. I wanted to be vocal about it, but I also don't want to give away the fact that I'm no longer a Christian. Do you have any advice? That is a fantastic question, Luke. It's hard because within the Old Testament, they have these laws. However, I would lean on the apologetics that I guess liberal Christians use, which is generally, do you think that Jesus would treat someone like that? Do you think that you would want to be treated like that? It is trying to appeal to people's morality, because that's often what they're talking about. I know they often bring up the ick. Some people say ick. I'm bisexual, so it's hard for me to know the ick. But we try to relate to people where they are, and I find that they open up when they find out that someone close to them also. And so the more relatable, unfortunately, that tends to happen. Everyone has a cousin or
Because
a...
it humanizes them. If it's somebody you don't know, they're just somebody you don't know, and it's kind of a lot easier to hate somebody you don't know than it is to somebody that you know and love and that you've been friends with for a long time, or in your family, and all, you know their humanity, you know they're a decent person, and you find this out about them, and it doesn't compute that all of a sudden they're this horrible, evil abomination who, um, is basically the most evil creature alive, just because they have their brains are wired a little differently than ours sexually. Doesn't make them a horrible person.
No, not at all. And took me, it took my parents a little while to get on board with my sexuality. However, you have to allow people to ask questions. You have to... My mom said that she went and she did research. That helped. And it's really just about connecting with people.
So like
If... Oh, no,
virtually no Christians will claim that they don't have any sin in their life, right? Like there's a Bible passage that says if we tell ourselves we have no sin, we lie to ourselves. And so there are some pastors who will say, well, yes, it is technically a sin, but it's no worse than the sins that I struggle with or that you struggle with. We all struggle with them. So, just because someone has sin in their life is not a reason to exclude them or doesn't make them any worse than any other person. It's just something they struggle with. And, ideally, I guess they would say, yeah, they should stop being gay, but that wouldn't be necessarily a requirement to having them in your church and to be able to, interact with them and treat them with the same respect and dignity you would treat anybody else.
Exactly. And so I hope we answered your question, Luke. Feel free to send in chat any feedback, but the best thing to do is just be open-minded, be patient, and allow them to ask questions or give subtle pushback whenever they say something that is... They hate these words. They hate the homophobic, transphobic, racist, all these words that, in my opinion, they probably are being in that moment. However, that doesn't matter, because what happens is you start fighting about the word. Instead of fighting about the word and fighting about whether they're being homophobic, just try to switch things around and see if they would be comfortable in the same situation if someone was being prejudiced towards them. So lean on morality, lean on altruism, fairness, and kindness. These are the moral metrics. And yeah, unless you have anything else, James?
No, I think I'm good.
All right. Thank you so much, Luke, for all the support, and we are sending you all the luck and love out there. And all right. Let's send so much love out, in fact, to everyone out there. You can not only like, follow, subscribe, and all of the rest, but we have ways you can support the channel, like sending in super chats like we just had. Mwah, mwah, mwah. And also super thanks in the future. And we're just saying thanks now. You can also join our channel membership below with our evolving badge system. Evolution, very triggering.
Send your emojis to trigger the Christians. Yeah.
I know. First of all, this is just the thing James and myself harp on over and over, but there's a pastor that he's 1,000 years old and yet he's still screaming, send in those emojis so you can kill the demon. And you see all these people sending in emojis. And I want to know what
pay for. They have to pay for the ability to interact with the exorcist or the fake exorcism.
And I want to know what it's like to be that demon. To be like, oh no, not hearts and Care Bear. Oh no, oh god. No, not a tongue face. The emojis, they cut so deep. It's a weak ass demon. How can you challenge God and lose to an emoji?
I mean, a butterfly could kick these guys' ass if they're going to. They're going to be scared, but if they're going to be scared by an emoji,
you did a meaty face. Well, I have had enough of this hellscape. I'm going back to hell. All right.
Okay, Bob.
But yes, evolving badges, evolution. It's a theory and a fact. That's just the last thing I'll say on evolution. Theory and a fact. And if you say the words, it's just a theory, so is your mom. That's just teasing. Silly. It's pretty silly. I would say that you just need to take a science class because a theory is one of the higher levels within scientific peer review. Because it's a framework of facts. It's many facts that explain a phenomena. Can one of those facts we later find out be wrong and we have to change and update our model? Yes. Does that mean our models don't work? No.
I think the only thing higher would be like a scientific law, like a law. There's only a few of those, and they're pretty fundamental. So,
see,
they're very basic.
That just tends to be the wording, though. Like Hubble's law,
mostly semantics,
things like that. Yeah, because you would say that germs are a fact, right? Even though it's the germ theory of disease, it could be that other things get us sick, but
they just like they reserve law for just like base level things that I guess everything else is built off of. I don't know, maybe. Theory is either way still very high up on the list of things that are regarded as truth.
Because they try to confuse it with hypothesis, which is just an educated guess. And we're being friendly when we say educated. They should be educated guesses. They're not always. But that's what a hypothesis is.
Somebody who has a background in a field just engaging in conjecture, just making a guess, is probably going to be better than someone who doesn't know anything about the field. Trying to guess, but
which is what we get from creationists. That's generally.
You still need to go out and get the data to support it.
Sure, you have to do testing,
and they never do. They never do. Which
they've had thousands of years. I know science. It's only been since the Enlightenment. However, we've been around since the Enlightenment and still no God. Do. And he's always about to come back any day now. It's always in their lifetime. Always in their lifetime.
Well, they've been saying that because there's a passage that seems to suggest that the generation that was alive when Israel reformed in, 48, that generation will not pass before God comes back. And so that as that approaches, the timetable is getting crunched further and further because they're not all dead yet.
Listen, I'm sure that's probably true, but they're always gonna just say in 100 years they'll still find something to just say.
Yeah,
because it's just in I'm starting to realize just how apocalyptic the entire religion is, and many of the majority of the Abrahamic religions are. This just desire for the end of the world. It's very strange for me. Like, I understand it when you like. I like Fallout. Greg, everyone go check out the fantastic adaptation.
Maybe it has to do with the fact that these religions in their infancy, they were not the dominant or even the most numerous religions of the regions they were in. They were surrounded by pagans and people of various other faiths. So, maybe they became that way. Like, okay, yeah, we're not the most powerful right now, but when God comes back, he's going to kill all you guys, and then we'll be the most powerful.
Listen, you just wait till our God comes back. Gonna kick butt any day.
He's got a big baseball bat, and he's going to be pissed.
That's right.
So then we'll win.
Here comes God. We got this.
But you don't really see that like you see throughout the history of ancient Israel, them being defeated, conquered, subjugated. And then, of course, that became, God did that because they didn't have enough faith, or they weren't practicing, they weren't keeping the Sabbath enough, or they weren't doing this or that. So God had to allow these other nations to defeat them so that they would realize that that they need to worship God more. I even heard one person say that maybe God allowed the Holocaust to happen because the Jews had become lax on keeping the Sabbath. Like, they weren't fervently enough following the Sabbath, so maybe God allowed, millions of them to be killed. Yeah.
It is said that in the halls of the Holocaust, written in blood, if a God exists, he may beg for my forgiveness.
Well, and you might think that sounds absurd to allow
so many people to be... The halls of Auschwitz, let me be.
Auschwitz.
Yes.
You might think that's absurd that God would allow so many people to die just because they weren't fervent enough in their Sabbath observance. Well, I mean, is it any more silly than God ordering somebody to be executed for picking up sticks? No, it's really about the same.
James, did you read that chapter in your Sunday school?
I don't recall that coming up. No.
Yeah, I don't remember that in my Hebrew school.
Well, okay, so because that person was breaking the Sabbath, so God had to have him put to death. But because the Jews as a whole were not keeping, so God had to collectively punish them all. And since he can't just zap, he had to use the Nazi Germany to punish the Jews for it's fucking ridiculous. But not that most Christians would believe something like that or say something like that, but some of them do. You hear pretty silly apologetics.
Very silly apologetics.
And some that are just horrible, just in their connotation and meaning, that they're just terrible.
Ladies and gentlemen, Nazis are bad.
Amy, are we really sure that they were the bad guys? Are we sure that they were bad?
My goodness. Yeah. Yo. And that's the only time in the history of Alex Jones's life.
Maybe they weren't so bad after all.
He had to turn to his side and go, I think this guy's crazy. I feel that's the first time in his life.
I'm pretty sure he was bad. Hitler, not the good guy.
Yeah, you're saying that to be shocking. No, the bad guy.
Even too far for Alex Jones, which is
too far for Alex Jones.
Yeah, which is amazing and scary at the same time.
Exactly. That's okay. Ye can go off into oblivion somewhere.
Religion is an excuse for atrocities. Yeah, I feel that's one of the things it's used for.
Voltaire, people that can get you to believe absurdities will get you to commit atrocities. paraphrasing, but
one of the there were several, but one of the justifications for the transatlantic slave trade is that these people living in Africa, they're all pagans, right? They're not Christians, and our success rate of sending missionaries in there to try to convert them without being killed is not very high, because they do not always seem very receptive to our missionaries coming to preach them. So, but instead, what if we go there with guns and chains, and we force them to come over, and then we can forcibly convert them? Well, you might say, oh, that's horrible to kidnap people and force them to work under threat of violence or death. But hey, at least they'll be Christianized. They'll be taught the Bible. They'll be, it'll be
they'll be
better.
Taught morals, James, right?
Yeah, don't get me wrong. It's gonna suck in some ways for them to do that, but it's necessary for their development as a people, and then they won't all have to go to hell, right? So they won't have to burn forever
and ever because he loves you. TM Carlin. Yes, but also the last shilling of the shilling, I am contractually obligated. And actually, sending love to $2 super chat from Left-Handed Jedi. Thank you so much. Do or do not. There is no God. And also, I just want to dance super chat. But yes, there is no God. And I consider myself a medium atheist. I am an agnostic atheist. It's true, I can't know that all gods don't exist. But there's a good amount that I know do not. And a lot of them are on planet Earth. Those religions,
see,
lots of bearings of humanity all over them.
There's not really much difference between the evidence we have for the gods that we maybe people think exist and those that we know don't exist. We don't have any evidence for any of them.
But thank you so very much, Left-Handed Jedi. You are amazing. And thank you for the love and support. And all right, this is the actual, I said it right before his super chat, but I meant he was amazing. This is what I meant as my last shilly shill, is the Patreon, which we love our Patreons. Thank you so very much at patreon.com/Amy Newman. Sending so much love to all of our supporters. And I say this sometimes. It almost like cuts it off at the heel. I always see some YouTube channels. They're like, you need to sign up for the Patreon because YouTube has been holding us down. They've been putting at the bottom of our videos links to Flat Earth, when all I've been trying to do is explain why NASA is an evil corporation working to create Australia so that they can try to hide the ice wall. I don't know why you would want to put ads on that. Come on, Nabisco.
I mean, do you realize that some of the first people that worked at NASA were from Germany? And what country did the Nazis hold power in? Oh, Germany.
James. Nazi NASA confirmed. I think it's actually funny that they hate NASA because NASA is such a benign organization that like both sides are just like, yay! That the conspiracy theorist thinks is so evil that it's almost adorable that how sinister. I live not too far away from NASA. I had a bunch of different NASA places.
Well, I mean, virtually every field of science works against them. So, and they have absolutely no doubt in their position. So, they're all in on it. They're all conspiring to make young Earth creationism look stupid. So
every country too, even North Korea, somehow round. But yes, young Earth creationism also just as equally stupid. They have normalized it here, yes, as flat Earth. In America, however, just as equally stupid. You can only see it, I think, visually when you see those numbers in comparison. I'll always do the same analogy with bank accounts. It's the difference between someone putting $6,000 to $10,000 in your bank account. That's nice. Okay, I would like $6,000 to $10,000. Or $4.5 billion. One pays bills. Others, you can probably start to buy a small country. More GDP.
But Amy, what is your net worth right now? So you're telling me that you owe more money in student loans than you actually have to your name. So you're in the hole. Oh, well, I mean, did I tell you I had dinner with Roger Stone once? So, I mean, therefore I am better than you. So I don't have student loans, and I sucked Roger Stone's dick.
Which we have to say is impressive because he is the Monopoly man. And so if you see Roger Stone, you have to pass go and you have to collect $200.
He probably takes 200 from you.
It's like the opposite Monopoly. Yes, supporters, sending so much love to Azo, reminding us we have a Skeptic and Ranting community. Yes, we do. You're part of it. Speaking of just Skeptic and Ranting and love, I can't help but just notice, first of all, we are a multimedia community sending love to everybody out there on Facebook, out on our YouTube, out on our Twitch. And I see so many people out there on Twitter, on X. Welcome aboard, y'all. It is lovely to have you. And we are the Skeptic and Ranting community. Our views are that we are skeptical about our belief systems, mostly leaning towards science as our tool, and we rant. But yes, thank you, Azo, for the support. Thank you so much. Rachel Holen reminding us that you do not need to take slaves from the nations around you. In fact, that is what's called, experts refer to it as a dick move. Instead, just go to a club, set up a BDSM profile or something. You don't have to enslave all of the women and children. Though, James, they want to save the women and children, and yet when the raiders come by and they're the chosen, I can't say the chosen one, the chosen people, but that's okay. You got God's stamp of approval on
Chosen
it.
from Karate Kid 2?
Yes. Well, I would say, if God says that you are his chosen people, run. Just turn the other way. Don't even say no thank you. Run.
So, yeah, I mean, my people, they've been enslaved in Egypt for like 300 years. Of course, I got them into that. I guess it's time for me to get them out of that shit. These people are so fucking useless. I mean, I get them into slavery. Hundreds of years later, they're still there. They haven't made any effort to get out. They want me to do everything. They want me to do everything for them. Okay, helpless little infants. I'll get you guys out.
You cry about it.
And then, so because I got you out of slavery and I told you to go into the middle of the desert, and you point out you don't have anything to eat there, so now it's my responsibility to provide you with food. How inconsiderate of me.
James, I think I can make you a nice quail dinner.
Make it a double quail.
Once again, these are the stories. It's almost like Like, there's a Grimm's fairy tale version of the Bible, which is the actual Bible, but people don't really read the whole Bible. Like, they do the nice version, the Sunday school, the what they show on TV, the Charlton Heston version. But
which is a good movie cinematography.
oh, hey,
like
who doesn't love?
You know, it's a good story. It's just not true. It happens to be fiction.
Here's the reason why those are good stories is because it uses mythic structure. It very specifically follows a template that we know is successful in storylines that are still within our movies and books and games. And and they just didn't happen to live in real life. Moses did not live. There was no Moses. There was no Adam and Eve. There was no Noah. These are not real people. All right. Now, I get that, as we get further up, it becomes shadier, though the prophets that we can prove or even half prove. I'll say the Jesus, a little bit of a sus story. Almost everything that is interesting about him probably didn't happen.
Or is highly embellished, and parts of it are probably just made up.
I cannot imagine. I'll keep on bringing up how weird this is. Can you imagine, James? It's such a weird question to even ask you. Can you imagine thinking your mother was a virgin? Isn't that just such a weird thing? Like we've normalized it because it's just like, ooh, it's part of our culture because so many other people believe it. Isn't that fucking weird?
I mean, I think that had to evolve as they.
Oh, it did.
Like the first Gospels, kind of, they were very vague, as you know, but they got more specific as they went on, increasing Jesus. He's not just a man.
I'm just now quoting
God himself.
But it was 2nd century, I believe. You're absolutely right. There's no way that Jesus, but it happened after he was dead. Like they Kim Jong-un'd him the same way, in that type of like we can start ascribing miracles that just he's not there. No one's gonna say there are followers. It's our holy book. Let's write this shit down.
So yeah, as it went on, his attributes, his status increased as you move through the Gospels, but it starts off a lot more modest.
Yeah, he wasn't. He also didn't believe that he was God. I still stand by that. I am still quoting Bart Ehrman. However,
but once he became God, where they were explicitly saying this guy is God, it became an issue because, well, I mean, if he's got a human mother and a human father, well, he had to be born, right? So he had to have a mother, and God is not a woman, so that had to be a human woman. So then his father must have been God. The only way to make it work. So,
or
sex with a human man before that. Well, you could just say, well, Jesus was as a result of that union between the man and the woman. But we know that he wasn't because they never even had sex. So it's impossible that he could have a human as a father.
That would be silly. Can you imagine having sex with your husband?
With God?
Well, the other, alternative option, it could be she cheated. Do. And once again, I'm not saying that's the definite answer, but it's in the realm of more possibility than getting pregnant by God.
That's what I originally said was like, so Mary's got this. Her parents come along and they say, "Oh, we found a guy that you're going to marry. We're arranging everything. It's got this really nice guy named Joseph. He's really into you. Wants to." And Mary's like, "But she's already been with somebody else," and she gets pregnant. Like, well, what are we going to tell Joseph? He doesn't know you've been. Oh, we'll just tell him it was God. It's from God.
Listen, God works in mysterious ways. You should be flattered that I'm pregnant with the
No, I wasn't
Son of
having
God.
sex with another guy.
What? That's crazy. What makes more sense is that I'm a virgin about to give birth to the Messiah. That makes way more sense. Also, Star Wars.
Your name is Ernesto.
Yes. Sending love also to Davegar, reminding us the world is round. Thick. We like it thick. That's okay. That's what he and she said. Sending so much love, Davegar. And sending love to Chris Disciple. We're only I was about to say we're only looking for empirical evidence. We are looking for Dale Pastel, but we are a community that is always open, whether you are Christian, Muslim, Jewish, Hindu. But are you a skeptic? That's what we care about. Chris is a skeptic. We think that we're skeptics. I think that it's the people that always say I'm 110% sure of something. That makes me very not sure of what they believe. But sending love, Chris, and sending love, Dale Pastel, reminding us we're looking for just a little bit of empirical evidence. It doesn't have to be a lot. And if empirical evidence is not accepted, then we really don't have. I mean, I'll go through arguments just because I think they're interesting. I think that it's fun to see how tight of a valid and sound argument that you can create. However, at the end of the day, if you want to know it's true in the real world, got to do what James and myself talked about earlier. We got to test it. And then, to last but certainly not least, our big girl deck level, boom, 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 reminding us we have a skeptic Bible study. Yes, we actually read the Bible cover to cover. That's how we learn all this weird stuff that's in the Bible. Just that definitely is not getting read out at weddings. Like James said, it's not often they talk about killing a guy on the Sabbath. But hey, don't pick up sticks, mother. Sending so much love, Reid.
He learned his lesson.
Exactly. I also like how that type of stuff, it's almost like a bad miracle. Like he killed someone like right then and there. Just boom. That's got to be crazy to see that. Where's Fred? Well,
strange fire.
Yeah, strange fire.
He pulled out of his girlfriend before he came.
Whoa, that was a thing. James,
yeah.
What even is this book?
Yep, he
and
pulled
they
out.
call it the book. But that's just the Old Testament. Yeah.
It pissed God off. He
New
pulled
Testament.
out of his girlfriend before he come. God got pissed, killed him.
Once again, if you think we're making this stuff up, it's all within your Bible, your local Bible. And sending so much love to, last but not least, Ian Davenport. Ian, boom, 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 reminding us that apologetic arguments are crap. Swear to Bob, the amount of contingency arguments. Because Dawa is hot nowadays, and the Catholics like the deistic arguments too. The Protestants seem to really just go all out with that creationism stuff. The Muslims are creationists, they're just embarrassed by it. They rely...
Most of them don't like to talk about it. They talk about other stuff.
Well, they rely on the fact that most Westerners just don't give a shit about the Quran and just aren't going to read it. Fair, but I took their challenge and read some of it. And that has been a fantastic way to point out all of this nonsense in the Quran. Just what kills me because I talk about the talking ants a lot. There's an entire chapter called The Ants, Surah, as they would say. But what kills me is their moon miracle. The moon miracle is a single line. Dude, there was a single person. I think Abdu Barker. I have to look up. I actually know, or I used to know, the very specific scribe who wrote the Quran, and just one day he was just like, in between lunch or something, he's just like, I don't know. And then he like split the moon in half. Boop. Literally a sentence. And that changes the entire religion. You get just millions, if not billions, of believers trying to defend as much as equal as, I mean, they're both crazy, but just as fervently as the Christians saying a first century rabbi came back to life. Prophets, ladies and gentlemen. But thank you so much, Ian Davenport. And Gizmo says hi. But my goodness, what's up, Dr. Dino, Mr. Korean, Doorknob Head, Flum?
Oh, look at that Gizmo.
Anyone who haven't said hi, you are Victoria, Blaster Master. Rachel, woo! Set in Love. Oh my goodness, I almost missed it. I'm glad I went back just through chat. $5 super chat from Mubarak. Keep on doing the Lord's work. That's right. We're doing the anti-Lord's work. But thank you so much for supporting the show, and Mubarak is awesome. We love him, and we're sending that love out to the community. What's up, Big Bad Brains? I am that I.
We should do some more anti-Islamic content. We haven't kicked that hornet's nest in a couple of months.
Well, true. And time. What happens if we don't do all of them? Each one of them at certain points go, oh, why do you just pick on us? Oh yeah, cry it out.
I'm sure we can find a conservative or Orthodox rabbi out there saying crazy shit too. So.
Oh yeah. Well, the only reason we don't harp on Jews as much as and first of all, I love my Jewish parents, but they're a perfect example. The reason why we don't harp on Judaism is because they ignore, not all of them, but a good portion, a really big portion, ignore the vast majority of their holy book. If the Christians and the Muslims were like that, we probably wouldn't need a podcast like this, but they are. So, but yes, there's tons of rabbis.
The Christians are running, got to rebuild the temple, and the Jews are like, why? Why would we want to do that?
But there's like a Starbucks, a free Wi-Fi also.
Why would we want to rebuild a temple? Just so we'll then have to do all these fucking sacrifices that we are exempt from doing now? No thanks. Oh, and they were really worried about it this year. I got text from my mom about it. That there was supposed to be this like red heifer that was going to be sacrificed in during Passover or something. That it comes up every few years. They're talking about them doing
sacrifice the guy from Rocco's Modern Life. No, they can't do this.
Yeah, every few years it comes up like, oh, they've got a red heifer. They're going to sacrifice it. It's a prelude to the temple. And, of course, it never is.
Sacrifices don't work. Like, I hate sacrificial logic. I do not care if it's another animal, if you're cutting the head off a chicken, or you are trying to pull the heart out of someone's chest, or sacrifice yourself on a cross. The Christians look down on the Aztecs, and I don't know why. They, will in the same breath be like, those savages sacrifice humans. Anyway, can we get this guy back on the cross so we can sacrifice the fuck out of him?
Well, meanwhile, but if you were in Europe at that time and you walking around and you said, I'm just not quite sure about this whole Trinity thing. I'm not sold on it. You had a pretty good chance being threatened to, okay, you better stop saying that, or we're going to burn you at the stake for heresy. And even if you say, oh, I'm sorry, I'll never say anything like that again, and they find out that you were still doing it, then you get burnt at the stake automatically.
These are good choices, James.
You're a relapsed heretic. You're going to burn at the stake.
What's up, Maya? What's up, everybody? And all right, I am going to, I think, be right back a second. But then when I come back, I don't really have an opening speech because it's just this long tirade. We're just going to get it right into the opposition opinion and watch John Lennox's scientific discovery reveals God's existence and refutes atheism. James, we're about to become theists.
Oh, yes. Thank you, Big Bad Mama. Yeah, you saw that. Ken Overton was running a stream, and there was no sound. I said, wow, this is the best sermon I've ever heard from Ken. It's actually not lying or saying anything offensive or stupid. Until, the sound got clicked on again, then I'm sure he went right back to that. But, hey, it was a momentary reprieve, brief respite from the normal insanity that he would be spewing out of his mouth, lies and obfuscations, his whacking atheist nonsense. Whack a wife. Yep. Always finding silly videos like this, silly claims, evidence for God, justifications for God. It kind of does, in a way, become repetitive because it is a lot of the same stuff. I mean, once in a while, someone will come up with a new one or one that hasn't gotten a lot of attention in a while, but a lot of them are repeats or slight modifications of the previous. But hey, they keep pumping it out, so we got to keep refuting it. And people, I heard that before. They're like, oh, well, all their claims like that they've put out now, it's already all been refuted. You don't even need to waste your time, continuing to refute that. And I would say, like, that is true that they have been refuted, but like when I'm looking for a video and I want to see a response, typically I would look for something that came out within a corresponding time period. If I see a Christian making a claim, and then would I go back 5 years to see the answer to that? I don't know. I would probably look for something more recent, because sometimes the context of these claims changes or they evolve over time. So the way they're presenting it in 2024 might be slightly different from 2020 or 2015. There's going to be some nuance in there that, needs to be responded to a little bit. But yeah, by and large, most of the arguments have been invalidated years ago, but it's still fun to go through them and see what they're talking about. Another thing is that by us listening to them, watching their content, listening to their arguments, we're willing to hear the other side. We're not afraid of what they might say. We don't have to live in a bubble. We don't have to ignore them or whatever, because we don't really think we have anything to fear from them. We don't think that their arguments are good or that they're going to be seriously troubling to our worldview. Once in a while, we get some base level like claims from religious people, typically Christians, like, oh, okay, well, if there is no God, then where did the universe come from? How did it get started? There's got to be a God. And I would say that if you are an atheist, if you've been an atheist for any particular length of time, that is one of those questions you probably wrangled with in your mind. You probably had that come up. You almost certainly analyzed that claim and had to make it. Is this claim, this unknown here, is that enough to justify my belief in this deity? Is this unknown? Does it justify belief in a deity? We came to the conclusion it does not. That there are things about the natural world we don't have a great understanding of. There are things we still have to learn. But everything we have learned so far doesn't seem to indicate the existence of a God. But that doesn't mean that case closed, we're not going to even listen to what they have to say, or we're not going to read their stuff or watch their videos, because they might present new arguments, and we're not afraid of those. If they've made a lot of bad arguments in the past, and if they tweak them, make them a little bit better, a little more resilient to criticism, great. Let's hear them. We don't have anything to fear. The truth doesn't need to hide. I think almost all of us will admit there are almost certainly things that we believe that we are wrong about. There are things that we'll find out that we believe that we'll learn is not true. Most of us at one point were theists and really didn't actually believe in it, but we realized we didn't have good reasons for that anymore. So we gave it up. We took the plunge. But we had to accept that, okay, taking God out of the equation, we don't know exactly how or why. We don't have a good understanding of the origin of the universe. So if you haven't considered that and gotten over that hurdle on your way to becoming an atheist, then I don't think you really thought things out. Because that's a hurdle, that's a leap that we all have to confront and adjudicate that in our mind. Is this a good reason to believe in a deity? Does it justify my belief? How good a quality of evidence is it? How airtight are the arguments? And we found them, at the end of the day, unconvincing. God of the gaps. Yeah, God of the gaps. And as our gaps in our knowledge are getting smaller and smaller, they're having to struggle sometimes to find gaps big enough to fit their God in. But you got to give them credit in a way. They are recalcitrant. They don't learn. They just they'll find something else somewhere else to hide their God in. Like Aaron Ra, when he said that, at one point in the past, they'd say, well, the gods lived up on the mountain until people climbed the mountains and found there was nobody there. Then they said, oh, well, the gods live in the clouds. They're up in the sky, silly. You can never get to them. Until we built planes and aircraft that we could send up there in the sky. And when they got there, did they see a God? No. They didn't see any evidence of God. Then we sent rockets into space. We've built space-based telescopes that can see billions of light years away. And we haven't seen any God or any strong indication of God yet. As far as that goes, right?
Nope.
And then they'll come along and say, oh, you silly God. He lives in some alternate dimension, so you can never even actually get there. They're just moving the curtain so that you can't ever actually move the curtain to see if there's anybody there or not. It's why most of the time they're not actually trying to establish their arguments. They're trying to make them unfalsifiable. They're trying to say that whatever method you're using to try to falsify or invalidate God, you can't do that. That's invalid. You can't falsify him. They're never really presenting affirmative evidence for him.
Heads I win, tails you lose, because they say that you need a designer to have life and that we can't create it. And then when we finally are able to create artificial life, they'll say, well, there you go. There's evidence
That's Ken Hogan,
that it needed creating. And all right, let's get to John Lennox's.
Mr. Creenan, yeah. If something that's unfalsifiable and testable, it's useless in terms of like scientific value, because you can make any kind of claim that you want to make, but if you construct it in such a way that it's unfalsifiable, you can never confirm it, you can never falsify it. It is essentially useless at that point. It's what can you do with that? Nothing.
Because it is the same as it not existing.
Right. You can't do anything. It's of no value whatsoever.
But all right, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to get into the opposition. If you want your comment shown on screen, feel free to tag us at James W, at Amy Newman, and Super Chats, which help support the show. But we are going into it. We clicky are watching Scientific Discovery Reveals God's Existence and Refutes Atheism. We hear these type of bets a lot. I know, James. We're about to become theists. Let's get to it.
I sometimes say to people, how does Genesis start? In the beginning, God created the bits of the universe we don't yet understand. Well, that's what Hawking believes.
What speed you got it on?
No.
What's that? I have 1.5. I'll just put it on normal.
What? If they want,
created the heavens and the earth.
Want to keep it on 1.5 or 1.25 maybe?
1.25.
Yeah. If you guys can, if it's too fast, let us know. We'll put it down to normal. But this guy talks a little on the slow side, and he's just bloviating anyway. So
that is everything. In other words, the bits we do understand and the bits we don't. But here's the interesting thing. It's the bits we do understand that point so strongly towards God.
So it's important for us to understand, as much as we revere what science can tell us, it's important for us to understand the limits of science. And I was talking to Dr. James Tour of Rice University in Houston. Do you know Dr. Tour?
Very well.
And he was telling me he's probably, no, not probably, he would say probably because he's being falsely humble. He is without doubt the brightest and best nanoscientist, nanochemist, nanobiologist on planet Earth today. And he creates molecules in the lab. And he knows how difficult it is to create molecules. And he tells me that without
creates cars that shift themselves
done to answer
like
the question
Cadillac,
of how
Eldorado.
life began and how molecules assemble themselves. Because, of course, we can't be talking about evolution because there's no life. We're talking
we're talking about abiogenesis,
about dead molecules. And I thought,
he cannot do this science because his science, his car shifts themselves. It's a luxury car. It's a Cadillac. You ever heard of a Cadillac? A luxury car. It shifts by itself.
And I don't mean to just pause it twice so fast, but when I was watching this the first time, it just always struck me. They always talk about dead. It's not dead material because it wasn't alive. It was inanimate matter. It was rocks like carbon because they seem to hate material. That we come from rocks. But yes, non-organic material. But it's dead only if it was once living.
If ever I needed an illustration of the limits of science, here you have the greatest nanoscientist in the world telling me, and of course he's a Christian, but telling me that in fact, not only don't we know it, we haven't even made any progress on figuring out how molecules assemble themselves.
He's very convincing. I find his
any progress made.
Absolutely convincing in that sense. And I've long maintained that the origin of life is the crucial thing. And as you rightly say, you cannot explain it by evolution because evolution, whatever it does or doesn't do, depends on the existence of life. And the existence of life is certainly bound up with the idea of a word base, a coded base, a genetic code, and all its sheer complexity. It's not only the complexity of it, it's the nature of
bingo.
it. This is a word, this is like a computer program. And it has always fascinated me that the language that has been deemed appropriate to describe...
Looking for my code prop, but...
fucking program, Sinister. Hear it and weep.
Yeah. No, it is not. And we have these chemical processes that form naturally. Life arises naturally.
Molecular biology at this level is taken from computer science. And therefore, the evidence that comes pouring forth is that no matter how far we go on naturalistic presuppositions, we're never going to get a solution. And it would be better to follow the evidence where it leads. It's very interesting to me that one of Dawkins' predecessors, the famous philosopher Antony Flew, who was a great
straw man incoming,
a great advocate of Hume's ideas that miracles violate the laws of nature. In high old life, he came to believe in God. And he said he believed in God because of the discovery of the nature of the genetic code. That it was.
Antony Flew ended up becoming a deist, someone who does not believe that a God can interact within our known universe. And yet, Christians try to latch onto Anthony because he was a theist. He did not believe that a Jesus was walking around shooting fish and loaves like it was a friggin' party.
It was a word that this kind of semiotic language, there was no way it could be generated by chance. And he was perfectly prepared to make a very important point, and it's this. I want to follow the evidence where it leads. You see, if you assume that what science means is that you've got to have a naturalistic explanation, well, then I believe you're never going to get one. But if you say, look, I want to follow evidence where it leads, here's a word. What is our common experience of the genesis of words that have meaning? It's
what is the common?
What does that even mean?
Genesis of words that have meaning. Sentence. That exactly. That was incoherent, right?
That was a word.
Like they were all English words, but
mind. And therefore here is certainly an a priori reason to believe that there's a mind behind this whole business, as James Tour.
A mind. That is what gets me.
A mime?
Yes, a mime. No, a mind. I do not get. Like, I understand that consciousness and being conscious, you know, we're that mechanism. So it makes sense in some way why we're obsessed with it. But it's just so weird why we want to have minds at the beginning of the universe. Like, you only see them in this one little niche branch of life.
No.
And yet we're like, no, that has to be basically the thing that's running everything.
So I can understand why us existing and how our minds are so fundamental to who we are and our existence that it's hard to imagine meaningful life without that conscious, self-aware experience that we have. But we're biased in that regard because we only know this way to live.
Because there's two things that we have to put, okay? On one hand, holy moly, we're conscious agents. That's amazing. It is one of the coolest chemical reactions in the universe. I would say we are very biased.
We don't even understand it perfectly, how it happens, but
but however, being one of the coolest chemical reactions over here, there are many other cool things in the universe. And it just, you know, it's hard to put consciousness up against either other mechanisms like our digestion. I try and put consciousness up against digestion all the time because anytime I probe about how these people who are very obsessed with consciousness being supernatural feel about digestion, they're very bored. very uninterested about why we're even talking about digestion. And yet I'm like, but it's a mechanism. It's actually tied directly to conscious experiences because that's a good reason of why we're conscious.
The most important organ in the human body, the first one that forms, is the heart. Because you don't need a brain to have an organism. There are organisms but you can't have an organism without a circulatory system, without the ability to transport nutrients and expel waste. You need that system in place. And what do we see? What's the main purpose that animals use consciousness for in the scope of evolution is the fact that we constantly have to shove food down our throats or we'll die. Because that's just reality. Unfortunately, God, He made us with that limitation that we have to constantly struggle to find
James,
food. It's sometimes dangerous, and we have to find it anyway. And some people, they'll just never be able to find enough, and they'll end up starving to death. But
that's because like a dude and a woman a really long and a snake a really long time ago ate an apple. Good times. Women have to have pain in childbirth because someone ate an apple.
So
what a dick God.
It's kind of because before Adam and Eve sinned, they were supposedly like immortal, but they were still eating shit because they understood the concept of eating. God said you can eat everything.
Why would you eat an apple?
So if you were, God does not have to constantly feed himself in heaven. He doesn't have to go to the God 7-Eleven and pick up a 6-pack and a hot dog to stay alive. That's not a need for him. So if humans are immortal, like what would be the whole point of eating? I get it. We like eating. We find joy in it. We find things that we like the taste of, and we enjoy eating them. It's a sensory experience, but fundamentally, it's to keep us alive. Evolution has just made it pleasurable and enjoyable to motivate us to go out and find food, even if it's not,
main reason why we're here.
Yeah.
Yo, and this is the other thing, Shane. What is up? It is a complete trap, right? Like you put a tree with yummy fruit right in front of what is in essence a child and say, look, you can do whatever you want, but don't eat this yummy, delicious fruit that I'm going to put right in front of you.
Okay. Well, they had to, Amy, because God had to give them that choice, because otherwise, if there was no way that they could choose not to follow God, well, then they would be mindless slaves, right? So he had to. He didn't want to burden them, Amy, with this whole notion of morality and this, because that is a very heavy burden to bear. He didn't want that for humankind, so he made them completely ignorant of that. It didn't matter to them. They had no concept of morality, but he still had to give them the choice to make a different choice, to choose to educate themselves, to choose to become aware of this thing that they didn't have knowledge of.
And James, they may not have had knowledge of good and evil, but they were told don't do that. And so
well, okay, so maybe God gave them the special grant of knowledge to know that was it. So they could understand it would be immoral to disobey God in the context of eating that food.
But it never says it. It just says that he tells them not to. It never says that they know. If anything, it kind of explicitly goes out of its way to say, because if there's a tree over here that holds the knowledge of good and evil, and you're over here and you're not allowed to eat from the tree, it does imply a little that you may be missing knowledge of good and evil.
Well, I mean, we see in the Genesis story. So Adam and Eve, they didn't realize, they were unaware of the fact that it is inherently immoral to be naked with your spouse when you two are the only people in existence. That is still immoral, because the first thing they did is make clothes so that there was nobody else that could see them, but they should still be wearing clothes, because that's just wrong to be naked. unless you're doing the business. Other than that, you need to wear fucking clothes.
That's
apparently.
Right. Listen, we can't show the naughty bits. God doesn't like it.
So if you're alone
What a
with
weird
your spouse
thing.
naked, that's apparently God doesn't like that. He's
James,
getting
I
angry.
know we're atheists, but can we just agree that the gods that like to have sex are cooler?
Yeah, God does not. Sorry, God does not want to see your ding dong. Okay, cover that shit. Unfortunately for him, he's omnipresent. He can't go away and hide. So show some respect.
Wait, if
Cover
he's
your shit.
everywhere, can't he see your junk anyway? Even when you're wearing clothes?
Of course, but I guess you're at least doing something to make it less
That's right.
obvious for him. You're doing what you can do to not annoy him.
Beamsy. Mr. Keegan. Yeah, they want a magic mind, a perfect mind sans development. They fantasize the end result of the process at its start. Yes, it's a magic mind. And they seem perfectly okay with putting forward what I call the poof model. The poof model goes up against evolution. How did the diversity of life come about? Well, very gradually, we have simple single-celled organisms that eventually become multi-celled organisms that eventually become these intelligent walking organisms that have built systems for surviving. Or we have the alternate model. There's a god and he goes poof. Once again, both of these models, very rigorous, basically the same thing. And so it's hard to choose which one we should be teaching in schools.
What did you say before was magical?
If you believe in a magic mind.
Well, I think what these guys need to do is take a trip on the magic school bus. Back
They might.
Back to middle school biology.
That would probably be a good idea.
You could do like someone should do a video of that, like with the magic school bus, Ken Hoven, Matt Powell, all these clowns in it, going to learn basic biology.
And the other thing, it's the last thing, and then we'll get back into it because I know we've been ranting. Though in fairness, we do rant. We can't help it. I forgot my point in explaining. James, this is why you don't preamble. Sending so much love, none of your business.
Magic school bus skit, remember?
Magic school bus. Oh, whether I forget sometimes whether they just are so into it. They're just so deep into the religion that they can't see it, or they're con artists. Because people like Ken Hoven have been taught by the best people on Earth, the best biologists on Earth about evolution. And so I think it's not a science, it's not a them problem, it's a him problem.
It was like 2 weeks ago. I was listening to one of Oz's really late night streams. It was like 4 or 5 in the morning, and I think he was going on to TikTok, and he was talking with this Christian on there. And you know how Oz is. He likes to Socratize and ask questions about people's beliefs and try to understand. And this guy, I guess hasn't been a Christian very long. Oz being a Christian for like 30 some years, has a lot of background of knowledge about the religion. So Oz is just really steamrolling this guy. He really doesn't have any good answers. And, he's basically just doing his best to dodge and obfuscate and whatever. He's not really giving answers. And the other Christian, after Oz was off, he came on. He's like, "Oh man, that was great. I just want to commend you. I want to praise you for, sticking to your guns and just holding on to your faith." And that was great. Like you can't say anything to justify your beliefs or why Oz's critiques are wrong. You're just saying you're going to stick with what you believe anyway. Like, okay, I guess.
Listen, James, sometimes when you don't have any evidence, that's the most faithful position you can have, which is why faith is bad.
Choose this belief and believe it and go to hell with whatever evidence or anything shows.
Oh my. Vagabond chasers know that God appears to them in the form of who they love. God, she says, worship in the bedroom. Let me tell you, that is the only place that I believe that we should worship people. And that is in the bedroom.
Worship my cock.
James, now sing. And with that, we are going to get back into Discovery Reveals God's Existence and Refutes Atheism. We're going to be converted tonight. I believe it.
He clearly asserts, and I would encourage listeners to watch his lecture at the University of Waterloo, the Pastel lectures. He followed me, or I followed him, but his lectures are far better than mine, and they're well worth watching.
Well, I have to say that it seems to me the more I meet and get to know people like you and your books and James Tour and some of the proponents of intelligent design like Stephen Meyer and Michael Behe, the more I am convinced that anyone with an open mind has to conclude
like the opposite for
that group of clowns.
I know.
At this point, that there is no question that the evidence leads us in the direction of believing in a God who created the universe. In other words, even though we might not be able to prove it, if I had to make a choice, the evidence of late, perhaps 100 years ago, this wasn't true, but because of what we now know through science, the evidence is overwhelming, pointing in that direction.
It has. And let me just pick you up on
that is like, that's just like it's textbook flipping the script. Like normally you would say that, well, when we didn't know as much about reality, there was more of a justification to believe in God. As we've learned more, we don't need to invoke God for nearly as much. They're just flipping the script and saying, well, the more we know, the more we actually realize we do need a God. No.
Although we cannot prove it. The word proof, unfortunately, is ambiguous in the English language. And when we say we don't have proof, what that should
we're not asking for absolute proof.
We cannot prove it like we can prove a syllogism in mathematics or a theorem in mathematics. But you cannot prove anything like that outside mathematics. Correct. You can't do that in physics or anywhere else, or chemistry. What you get in these fields is proof in the legal sense. That is beyond reasonable doubt. Now, when people react and say, oh, that's
proof
not
in the legal sense. Okay, what kind of proof you got?
Strong enough. I say it is strong enough. I couldn't prove to you mathematically that the jumbo jet that brought me to New York a few days ago was going to get me here. But
yes, you could. It's a very silly thing.
You can't prove that engineering. Absolutely. But I think we can confirm it with over 99% certainty. Exactly. And for a lot of things, that's just the highest we can get. Like Amy wouldn't say we're 100% sure the globe is round, the Earth is round. Say 99.999% sure, because that slight chance that it's not would be so silly. But we still wouldn't say we're absolutely certain.
I trusted my life to it because I think there's enough evidence. And when we made an fully automatic landing at JFK in fog, and the runway became visible about 1.5 seconds before we touched down. And the pilot said, switch off all your phones, make sure every electronic...
I don't know, fully automatic landing just sounds funny to me. I'm sure that's the proper term. It's just, it sounds like a landing that's like, you need to do like we're going to land.
Thing is off because they could mislead the guidance mechanism.
That'll get your attention.
There's an example of committing your life to these technological masterpieces, but you can't prove mathematically. And then on the more human level, I've been married for 51 years to the same person. I can't prove mathematically that she loves me, but I'd risk.
Yeah, but you can prove she loves you. There are ways to verify. Does that mean we can get inside her head? No. But there are ways, things that she does, you can build evidence to show that she loves you.
People show you who they are with their actions, you know. Everyone, even the best of us, we all fuck up at certain points. We all do stupid things and say stupid things. And if somebody loves you enough to be with you and accept you and care for you, at your worst level, then I think you could be pretty sure that there's something there for real. Now, if at the very first sign of trouble or things aren't ideal or they run away, then no, they probably really didn't love you. But there are ways that you can, gather information.
And Mr. Green, what is up? And you're saying you are a naturalist or a conscious-centered use of the term God, not in faith and mythology. Can I ask what type of theist you are? See, that's my big shtick, is I'm against a God that is conscious because of what I believe consciousness is, which is a system of awareness. It's very hard for me to understand what even awareness would be like if you are everywhere at all times, at all moments. Because consciousness is tied so directly to space-time. We are, at all points, have a marker of both space and time. We're someplace, somewhere. And I don't know what it would even mean. Yeah, I don't even know what it would mean to be the eternal mind. It's almost like an inherent contradiction, but we're just so used to it in our movies and books. Sorry, had to cough and get some Gatorade. But yes, let's get back into it.
My life on it. Do you see the point? In other words, when we say we can't prove it, we mean we can't prove it mathematically, but we can give evidence for it.
Well, John, this is the great lie that has crept into the culture, and that's why we're sitting here. Because, when we talk about faith and science, we talk about the Christian faith and science.
We're not asking
until fairly recently, there was no divide between the two. In fact, one, as you said in a previous program, led to the other. Biblical faith led to the assumptions that led us to science, to do science. But we live in a culture now where we have to make the case over and over again because people have drunk.
You know what happened when they actually went out into the field and started investigating whether they can find evidence for things in the Bible, and they came up with nothing. They didn't. They fully expected to look through the geological history of Earth and find a clear instance of a worldwide flood, the same big flood layer over the whole world, and guess what? They didn't find it. No, they didn't find it.
Nada.
Are somehow convinced of what they've been told over and over and over. For example, that the only proof that we can have is scientific proof. You've just said, and I know it to be true, that's sheer nonsense. But
it's not the only evidence, but it's the best evidence. And so it's weird, that your God can't kind of match that sort of level.
We have to make that case over and over.
But no, like he gave evidence like thousands of years ago, so you can't actually see it. But the people who were alive at the time, they wrote down what they saw, and you can read that, and then you will know that what they saw was true.
And James, hundreds of anonymous people in this one book say that it happened. And so why don't you believe it?
I mean, if we had 100 people come to court and testify that something happened, would you believe it? Would that not be sufficient evidence or proof? Who are these?
They say this with a poker face, like as if we're supposed to accept these arguments, as if they're good arguments.
I just like imagine being stopped by, the police outside of Dillard's with, a basket full of shit that you just stole from them, and saying, no, I paid for all this stuff. I have 200 witnesses that will tell you that I paid for this stuff. And the police are, oh, okay. I mean, the store was saying they didn't think you paid for it, but I mean, if you're telling me you got 200 witnesses, then yeah, go ahead. Go on your way. Sorry to bother you. Have a great
day. I didn't know you had that many witnesses.
Yeah, we didn't know you had 200.
Hey, can I ask who witness 137 was? Oh, come on.
They go back in the store and talk to the manager, like, hey, no. I mean, it looks like on camera that they're just taking the shit and running out the door without paying. But when we talked to him in the parking lot, he said he had 200 people that would see. And we would have to accept that, right? Yeah.
thing. You know, we say Napoleon existed and we talk about his life. Well, prove it in a lab, prove it scientifically.
Yeah, yeah.
Nobody would even want to prove it scientifically.
But you can historically.
We don't think that Napoleon broke physical, natural laws of nature.
But
evidence
but
for
of
it.
course we can
Not
use
really a
logic and we can
scientific
use
field.
evidence, and that's what we
Trying
do.
They're trying to apply science to like history, and you know we can't like apply science to did the flood happen per se, but what we can do is we could say, well, if it happened, it would leave certain markers, certain evidences. We would see things that would be consistent with it, that would be able to point in the direction of, oh yeah, this really does seem like this was an actual event. Everything lines up with it.
Which is not what we find
In our lives with just about everything.
Of course it is.
And we have to redeem the ground in the culture, so to speak.
We all know what evidence-based faith is. And the crucial thing to grasp is that
because if you have evidence, you actually don't need faith.
You know, you only need faith if you don't have any evidence.
the atheists are wrong when they say Christianity is not an evidence-based faith. It is. I think that...
I mean, would you say, Amy, that you have faith in your spouse if you require them to keep their GPS on at all times, you monitor their calls, their texts, their emails, you monitor everything they do, and then you're saying, no, I have perfect amount of, I have total faith in them. They would never do anything behind my back. They would never, cheat on me or do anything. I have complete faith.
That's right. No, I mean,
no, you're not having faith. You're basing your belief on evidence.
On evidence. And that is what I think the vast majority of people do in relationships. I don't think that I don't think that it's a faith-based position. It's not just saying, oh man, I don't know One Direction. I'm just saying I sure hope they do.
If your spouse has like a gambling problem, right, and they can't compulsively gamble, they'll blow the rent money, the mortgage money at the casino and leave you guys penniless, and you don't want that to happen, so you're monitoring the finances, making sure they're not having an episode. That's being based on evidence, not based on you're actually not having faith in them, because you're realizing at some level that this is a mental disorder that is hard for them to overcome, right? Now, if you just trust them and you're not looking at anything, well, okay, that's based on trust, but don't be surprised if once in a while your bank account's empty and it went to the casino or scratch offs.
No type of theism is a Greco-Semitic religious complex, not a universal trait of human nature. It's the mark of a culture. Ishtav, Bhagavan, Brahman, these are not theistic concepts. Okay. I've always been interested in things like Buddhism. It's never swayed me over, but I like learning about it. And
I think all religions, maybe there might be something in there you could learn from it. There are good things in Christianity and Judaism. There are nicer aspects of it that you can glean from it, but
James,
there is a whole lot of baggage that goes with it, right?
Yeah, well, to get "thou shalt not murder," we get a God who sends these people on a lot of murdering, and so it's complicated.
Divine command theory. It's okay if God says it's okay, so therefore it's okay.
That's right.
I wondered, why is it that so many of these people, Hawking in particular, when he was alive, told people you've got to choose between science and God? I could never understand that until one day it dawned on me what the reason was.
There is no God.
No, you don't really have to choose, because there
are
lots of believers who accept science and they compartmentalize their faith off to the side, and they work their faith around what they know to be reality. They don't say, well, when reality contradicts my faith, I stick with my faith, and reality be damned, it must be wrong. No, they bend their religion to the reality that they know.
When it's science versus the religion, oftentimes the religion wins.
was. It's because of his concept of God. You see, when I was younger, if I used the word God, it meant the creator of the universe, eternal, independent of the universe, who creates.
Oh my goddess, he is like a thick Mr. Rogers. I was wondering who this guy looked like. There was someone who he looked like.
Who, Lennox or the guy interviewed? Who do you mean?
No, definitely. Yeah,
Lennox?
yes, I mean Lennox.
Like
For
a
some
full
reason,
figure,
I-
Mr. Rogers?
Yes,
upholds it.
absolutely.
But you see, now they're so hung up on the idea that God is a fiction that they've reduced the God of the Bible to the level of the Greek God of thunder.
Right.
Yeah, we have.
Now,
Yep. Once again, they always look down on other gods, and yet
You'd have to be stupid. You'd have to be insane to believe in those gods. Oh, I mean the ancient Egyptian religions, the Greek gods. Yeah, that's stupid, but not our religion.
which god should we choose? God equals the square root of -1. We're gonna have to get a menu. Just pick a god that is really fun, or if you're in the mood for a more serious god, there's a god that sleeps with a lot of women or men, whatever you're into.
I mean, that's how Glenn Beck actually came to Mormonism. He said that, him and his wife, they weren't married very long. I don't think they had kids at the time. And he said that they sat down at the table and they said, okay, we need to pick a religion. And they looked at all of them. They looked at different denominations and religions, and they settled on Mormonism. They said, we like this one. This is what we're going to go to choose. So they just arbitrarily selected Mormonism because they just liked it, I guess. Which is incredibly silly, but hey.
Say, hey, why not?
a course on atmospheric physics will remove the need for the God of Thunder straight away. And so you get atheists.
Hey there, folks. If you enjoy this video and want to see more interviews
All
like
right.
this one, make sure to subscribe to my channel. Please just hit the subscribe button below, click the notification bell so you don't miss new content every single week.
Oh, you don't want to miss it.
Watch are not subscribed.
It's a little weird.
Yeah, I wonder why.
Isn't that a little weird, James? Like, I
Little
get
bit.
it doesn't have to be like, you don't have to have everybody subscribed watching, but if
But less than
90%, yeah, whatever.
And you could be in the first 100,000 subscribers to my channel. I would love that.
All right.
Please subscribe. God bless you.
Stephen Hawking, the late Stephen Hawking, gave people the
Well, it's just so funny when I hear that version of God Bless You. It just always feels like someone sneezed. Once again, it's the little things in life, James.
impression, and many people have it. You've got to choose between science and God. And if you want to be regarded as a thinker, you forget God. And I was puzzled until I realized that that comes from having a false concept of God. That's thinking of God as what we call a God of the gaps. The Greeks didn't understand thunder, so they postulated a God of thunder. That God will disappear once you've done a little bit of atmospheric physics. So the idea is that God is a kind of placeholder that you believe in until science fills that space.
Yes,
Now,
that is true.
two bad, seriously, error here. The first is that the gods of the ancient world, as a brilliant Oxford Don, Werner Jaeger, said, the Greek gods are descended from the heaven and the earth. They were created by the primeval chaos. The God of the Bible created the heavens and the earth. So if you put them in the same category, you just...
Okay. Yes, there were many gods at the time, many creator gods. Your God just became this monotheistic God through the evolution of slowly but surely eliminating other gods and calling yourself the only God.
Like, well, our God makes a more grandiose claim, right? Their claims were more modest, but our God, he claims to have created it all. So he's just declaring himself to be more powerful. More
He's the
grandiose.
Highlander.
Yeah, it can only be
don't understand. It's a failure of understanding what these Greek gods were. Now, that's the first thing. But you see, that means that because the God of the Bible created the heavens and the earth, he's not threatened by science at all, because he's the...
Didn't that feel like a little
Really?
self-defensive? Just a little.
Really? Yeah.
Like this, he sounds like his PR person, or like, what is it when you're a politician? You send out your what does like the president have? I'm trying to remember. Press secretary.
Yeah, your Baghdad Bob. Your
Yeah, it
media.
sounds like this guy just trying to butter.
God of the bits we do understand as well as the gods we don't. I sometimes say to people, how does Genesis start? In the beginning, God created.
Lots of nonsense. It contradicts itself. It has two stories that are not the same.
The bits of the universe we don't yet
Actually, like
understand.
the originally, Genesis began with chapter 2 in Abraham. Genesis chapter 1 was added probably hundreds of years later. Okay, because remember, in the beginning, they weren't claiming their God was omnipotent. He's the only God. So they didn't really concern themselves with like the creation. Other gods could have done that. It didn't matter because Yahweh made this covenant with Abraham, so that's where it started, right? Then as it evolved, and they said, well, these other gods aren't even real. Well, okay, now all of a sudden Yahweh's got to be the creator of the earth too, so we need a story for that. So they borrowed one from I think it was the Babylonians. They modified it, Yahwehized it, and just stuck it in Genesis 1.
Also starting to see how much Christianity and Islam borrowed from Zoroastrianism. Heaven, hell, a lot of
concept, the dual afterlife.
The specific version of like a Satan, these types of things.
And you can tell because if man had this Satan, this mortal enemy who is out to lead us to death and destruction, don't you think that would be something God would want to make us aware of pretty immediately, that we've got this adversary out there trying to screw us over? But he doesn't say anything about Satan right away. He goes a long time without even mentioning Satan.
What Hawking believes, you see, that kind of idea. No, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. That is everything. In other words, the bits we do understand and the bits we don't. But here's the interesting thing.
Well, if you think about it, if we were to take it literally, because I know they try and make it seem like that's everything, but it's heaven and then an earth. But, okay.
I mean, you just don't understand, Amy, how amazing this God is. He can put paper. He can use paper towels on the toilet without clogging it. Okay, he can do that. He can put 3 or 4 sheets in there and it will not clog. You can't do that because you'll clog it, but God can.
It's the bits we do understand that point so strongly towards God. We've just been talking about the DNA molecule, this word. Newton, when he discovered the law of gravitation, didn't say, oh, I've got a law of gravity, I don't need God. No. He said, what a brilliant God that does it that way. And it's the same with us. If we go to the Metropolitan Museum.
No follow-up to that. Okay, we discovered DNA
of art here or wherever in London or Amsterdam, and we see a painting. The more we know about painting, the more we admire the genius of the person that did it that way. The less we know about painting, the less we'll be able to admire their genius.
What? No. I'm sorry, but people enjoy art all the time without knowing anything by the artist.
Go back like 10 seconds. Let me hear his exact point.
He said, what a brilliant God that does it that way. And it's the same with us. If we go to the Metropolitan Museum of Art here or wherever in London or Amsterdam, and we see a painting, the more we know about painting, the more we admire the genius of the person that did it that way. The less we know about painting, the less we'll be able to admire their genius. And so,
what's the quote, like Arthur C. Clarke, sufficiently advanced technology will be indistinguishable from magic, because it looks magic because we don't understand how it works. But once you understand how it works, then you know it's not magic. Like the conquistadors with their firearms that the Native Americans had never seen before. It looked pretty like, who are these guys? They've got these things that can kill you from very far away. It's not arrows, but it makes an explosion. this shit is magic. Well, no, it's just new technology they weren't aware of.
You're enjoying art wrong. Yeah, basically.
So the more I understand as a mathematician, some kind of a scientist, of the way the universe works and the way it's describable, the more I admire the God that did it that way, because science doesn't threaten him.
Isn't it true? I mean, I have.
You said that twice now, which I don't know. It just makes it seem like science kind of threatens him.
Well, you know what, though, Amy? You know what? Science is not threatened by God either. So there you go.
Mm-hmm.
God's not worried about science. Well, we're not worried about God either.
Bring it on, God.
There you go. Stick that in your pipe.
That is our Fedora moment. We have lots of them on here, ladies and gentlemen.
I have to say that I wrote a piece in the Wall Street Journal a number of years ago, which was a shortened form of some chapters in my book, Miracles, which themselves took much of their...
This guy looks like a librarian in a murder mystery, or the sidekick to a spy. Like the guy who gets the stuff, the technology for the spy.
The guy who works for James Bond, yeah.
Yes, exactly. He's like explaining what the gadget does as he puts it on his wrist.
Colonel Mustard in the kitchen with the 18-inch black dildo.
How did you know what I did last weekend?
Information from your book. So I want to tell people to read your books. But in that piece,
Gunning for God, I think.
They titled, yes, that's right. They titled it Science Increasingly Makes the Case for God. And I do make that point that I think scientists today, many of them are scared because they have had a lot of cultural power. And the evidence now very strongly points away from their atheist theses. And they're frightened. And so all they can do is make a lot of noise and try to redefine terms and try to say that you're stupid if you even question these kinds of things.
James, it's all of the leading breakthroughs in theology, which have scientists really just shaking in their boots. I'm not sure what those discoveries are. We're going to find them.
And try to use these false arguments. I mean, to say that I don't believe in Zeus and I don't believe in Era and I don't believe in this one or that one and I also don't believe in Jesus, as though there's some kind of that's called sophistry. Let's face it. Anybody who's serious wouldn't say that.
They don't like the one God further argument because it's so true that they have no problem hand waving away all these other religions.
Also, well,
yeah. They hand wave these other religions away without even a thought. They don't do research into them. They haven't read the Vedas and determined that Hinduism is not true. They just reject it out of hand.
And also the irony of calling it sophistry when the entire video has been basically why we shouldn't really use science. And I know it says at the title, Scientific Discovery Reveals God's Existence. James, we're almost at the end. Have we figured out which scientific discovery has revealed God's existence or refuted atheism?
Not really.
Huh.
The
That's
DNA molecule, maybe.
That's true.
They're not like expanding on it or saying why.
Exactly. He said it. He threw it out there, and then he had no follow-up. I guess. Okay. Whatever.
But I really do think that there's a real fear and that they have a narrative and that they become hostile because their power has been threatened. Their cultural power has been threatened.
I think that's very real, but it's good to remind ourselves that not all scientists are like that.
Also, yes, and he's about to get into a point which I almost agree with, which is it's true. Unfortunately,
science is not threatened by the existence of God. Science stays out of the religion equation. They don't have a dog in the fight.
But it also just goes back to how can you name a video that is really about science discovering something and then say it has them shaking in their boots? They don't. I guess they don't want to be, they don't want to believe in God.
God is not really falsifiable. So there's no way to scientifically conclude there is no God. So from a scientific standpoint, it's pretty much a useless hypothesis.
Indeed.
First, stepping back from this historically, many people don't realize that in the 100 years between 1900 and 2000, over 60% of Nobel Prize winners believed in God. That's point number.
And what is that? Okay, once again, we don't think that theists are dumb. It does not lower your intelligence. We think that you're wrong on a very specific issue. So it could be 100% of Nobel Prizes were handed out to theists that would not in any way add any credence to theism being true.
Well, they like to say like, oh, well, Isaac Newton, Galileo, Copernicus, all these people believed in God. They were all Christians and they were smart. They weren't dumb. So apparently Christianity must make sense, right? If these smart people who did science believe it.
Number one.
That's amazing.
And when people say to me, look, science and God cannot live together, I say, well, what do you make of Francis Collins, who worked at the...
Science and God are not opposite. As much as James and I were just talking about our fedoras, they are not opposites. Atheism and theism are opposites. Gnosticism and agnosticism are opposites. But you can be religious and believe in science. I actually hope that if you are religious, you do believe in science.
The Human Genome Project directed it,
Right.
and is now the director of the National Institute of Health.
Yes.
And what do you make of Bill Phillips?
But if you go into why he believes in Jesus, he was walking around and saw a waterfall break into three. And this signified the Trinity, and he fell to his feet. Stephen Collins? I'm trying to... Francis Collins of the Human Genome Project, who is a Christian, but also he works in biology. He was helping map the human genome, so clearly believes in evolution. And so...
Let me tell you, like, the most important thing I ever heard from a psychiatrist say was that you'll always be able to find an excuse to do what you really want to do. You're never going to be in a situation where you know what you should do, you don't want to do it because of X, Y. You'll always be able to give reasons or an excuse for not doing what you know you should do. Because situations are never ideal, and oh, well, this or that, maybe if this were different or that were different, okay, if you want to live on excuses, fine. But so if you're looking for a reason to believe, if you're desperate, you'll find something. You'll find something to latch onto.
I'm just going to finish
If you
this.
want to believe that enough,
show,
you'll believe it, no matter how silly it may be.
Phillips, who won the Nobel Prize for Physics. They're both Christians. You see, if science and God were total aliens and enemies, you would never have a Nobel Prize winner for physics who's a believer. You just wouldn't get it. And that's enough to tell me that this assumption that science and God are enemies, there's something seriously flawed with it.
So I love how that's like the ending, but that wasn't what you were supposed to be proving. It's not, is it okay to be religious and believe in science? It was supposed to be science proves God and refutes atheism. But cool, I guess that kind of just got lost in the thread there.
Minor oversight.
Exactly. Hey, it's just the title. You don't really have to go over it, I guess.
More like Christian gives excuses as to why, science can't prove God. Or why there seems to be no evidence for God.
And I said I'd bring it up. James W., one of them were Christians. It was more paganistic. Newton was paganistic. Galileo was naturalist. Copernicus was a Canaanite.
At least some of them presented themselves as Christians. Maybe what they actually believed was different. But Kepler, was he a Christian?
If it's a Canaanite, can it be a Canaday? They're different. The opposite tribe that only comes out during the day. James, I have a million dad jokes or mom jokes. However we want to
Keep 'em
phrase
coming.
it. But all right, it is at hour 2. I think we're going to give like a 15-minute. When do you have to go 2:30?
Yeah, something like that. I'll hang out for like 15 minutes if it needs to go on.
And if
I'll
a
just
creationist joins, I'll stay on for like the next 18 hours. But we are going to have more midnight rantings and some more.
Summer coming up in a few months.
I have no idea how excited I am for summer. Listen, I love teaching. I think I'm getting better at it. I think I'm learning how to create better K through 12 curriculum. That being said, James, I'm looking forward to my first summer. Like summer. I haven't had a summer off
What's that, Beamsy?
in almost 2 decades. That's right. If I'm making it, listen, daddy joke. I love getting, I guess I'll say transphobic, homophobic, whatever, guys, really awkward whenever they want to male pronoun me, and then I lean into it and I'm like, that's right, call me sir, because you should be showing me respect. Or, you know what, maybe I'm your daddy. They get super awkward, which I guess is just yummy for me.
Paganistic.
I worship Beamsy's god. That's the only god, which is dad ass. All right, I like thighs, breasts. I even like a toned chest, okay? It doesn't just have to be the girls. I like the guys with the toned. Oh, being pansexual. Anyway, right, StreamYard. James, did you know I have ADD?
I heard that before.
Oh, my goodness. Come join the me clickety-clacking. Clickety-clack, clickety-clack. That's right, boys and girls. Just open it up. If you're a skeptic and you have something on your mind, probably going to be short and pithy, but feel free to come on. And if you're a theist and a creationist, come on and take on as much time as you want. Please, by all means. We will most likely not mute, ban. We are open-minded.
Shadow ban.
That's right. Some people like fat legs, others like skinny legs. Personally, I love a little bit between. I'm open-minded in body types. I don't mind a little bit of curves, but I'm okay with the lanky as well. But James, anything on your mind before, if no one shows up, we're going to be heading out. So, final
Not really.
thoughts soon. I'm trying to think. Oh, I'm going to upload my AMA. I feel so bad for Taco, because he probably thinks, why haven't you uploaded the AMA? Don't you like my AMA? And he actually did a great job with the interview. I actually want to go back and have more fun. I want to debate people, and I'll upload that I might upload that tomorrow. And so we'll see. And I would like lots more content coming soon. Lots of great channels out there. Go check out Oz's. Hive, go check out Bree, go check out AJ, go check out Mark. SpeedOfSound, Answers in Atheism. Peter's gonna go for it. T-Jump. The Line, as well as the ACA, Atheist Experience, and all of them. It is a fantastic community that I think we're building. We have to offer alternatives, because if you don't offer alternatives, people feel stuck, and they will identify even if they don't really believe. And so it's not until they have at least an analogous system that I find that people really feel comfortable enough to leave the community that may have been such an integral part of their lives. Sending so much love, none of you biz. I think we're about to be closing up shop. Beamsy's already in the naughty corner, but we don't know what he's doing in the naughty corner. See, that's the real thing. Oh, here's Flum. All right. We're going to give 10 minutes of Flum, and then I think we are heading out. We are Skeptic and Ranting on scientific discovery, reveals God's existence, and refutes atheism. And we are going into our open mics. Woo! What's up, Flum? Welcome on board. We only have a little bit of time, but want you to say whatever is on your mind. So we are Skeptic and Ranting on scientific discovery, reveals God's existence, and refutes atheism. I hope you're good. And what are your thoughts? I heard like a little bit of a sound, but it sounded far away. Trying to last you.
It's on
Anything?
now. Hi,
Anything?
hi, Amy. Hi, James.
Hi, Flum. How are you? And what are your
It's
thoughts
just-
on the subject?
I love Dr. Lennox. He's one of my favorites because he was one of the pioneers in the 1970s. He did the whole DNA sequencing, the helix, and all that. He didn't get the Nobel Prize for it. Two other guys did, but he did a lot of work on it. He's a brilliant man. Really, he is. It's not a joke. But sometime around 1998, I think, he was in Canada and he saw this waterfall that was frozen like in three ways, three different waterfalls. No, it was the same waterfall, but there were three flows of water. And he said, that's
Oh, we
the
are talking
triune
about
God.
Francis Collins.
Yes. Sorry. Yes. And I'm like, how does a brilliant guy go from being the most brilliant scientist in the world to seeing ice and saying that's God? I don't understand that.
Yeah, religion, unfortunately, because that doesn't make sense to me. Like, I'm sure they go, oh my goodness, three, Trinity. It all makes sense. And yet, from, I think, our perspective, it's just so random.
Yes, because you can find three anywhere in the
Yeah.
world. There's three-leaf clovers. No, it's just stupid to me. I don't get that. I don't get how that points to God. I don't get that. But it's what we often get from theists are these vague points to this could be a thing, but they never say what the thing is.
Yeah, they also want to know the how about everything, which I think science gives us lots of hows, even though they're asking for whys as well. But when we ask them any hows about God, it becomes, well, that's an impossible question.
No, but that's also a semantic question. The why you're putting in there.
Oh no,
It
so
can
science doesn't
determine.
answer why questions, it answers how questions, because why questions
Yes.
are endless.
No, because why is agency? It's someone or something that wants to accomplish something.
Sure. But it's also yeah, and it most often gets
No.
framed.
Organisms don't want to accomplish things. They just do, and things just happen. It's not that they want them to happen. It just happens in sometimes a random order, sometimes a systemized order, but they just happen. The why is always something on a higher level, not a god level or something, but
Well, I think we translate
something
whys
that
into
wants the
hows.
goal. No,
So
the why is always goal oriented.
so so we could ask, why is the earth round? But the question should be framed is
How is
how, and it's because it's that gravity, and we are
gravity
able to
pulls it
explain it through
together?
a
Yeah,
phenomenon.
there is no why. Gravity doesn't want the earth to be round. It just happens that gravity makes the earth round. It's not. No, but that's a linguistic thing. It's not important, I think. But theists often think it's important because they think the why is that God wants it to be that way.
Sure, and they also have no good evidence, but they can't explain the how. That's my bigger thing, is that if we ask them for the thing that they want of us, they will say that, well, that is, incomprehensible.
Yes. How did Jesus raise from the tomb? We want to know so we can raise other people who died.
Exactly.
Yeah. So the how is actually more important than the why. Or like I believe there's no why in science. There is no why. It's not part of the scientific discovery.
Ooh, James Shepard got summoned by Satan.
It happens. I tried it.
But yeah, I
No, but
understand.
you always have to look out for the semantics that theistic people make. It's like when they say created the universe, that implies a creator. You have to ask, how did the universe start? Not how the universe was created, but how did it start?
Yep,
Because
because
creation always implies a creator.
and so we can only say that we can go back to the Big Bang, and they often try to say that they would be before, but that doesn't really make sense within space time. It really doesn't make
Well,
sense.
that's for you and Tijan to discuss. I show you did the other week where he talked about there can be other universes or universes before this and everything. I don't. I'm not smart enough for that. I just
It's
know
okay.
that
Well, it could be either. It could be eternal, or it could be something else. We just don't know.
What's he talking about?
I
well,
was.
do you know Penrose with the
The
expanding Big Bangs?
cyclic universe
Mhm.
hypothesis?
Yes.
I know that's what he's
Crunch
quoted
and
for.
expansion and crunching and back again.
Yes.
I mean, it's
So that there
plausible.
would be a before this universe. So going to the we can't talk about it is
Sure. As
nonsense.
so, it could go either way. That's why I always say it could. I could imagine it where the universe truly began with the Big Bang. There was nothing
That is
else.
the first.
And then I can
yes.
imagine one that would
So-
be either a multiverse or cyclical.
So
Or
my
whatever else we don't understand. We
my
don't.
terminology
Someone else.
is going to be imprecise, but over the past maybe like 5 to 10 years, so if you ask somebody like 2010, they'd say, "Oh no, time is wrapped up with space and space time, so the very idea of something before the Big Bang is nonsensical because there was no time, there was no space time." But they've kind of moved away from that a little bit and accepted maybe that time can be the space time we experience, and it could also be an abstract concept that is immaterial. So you might be able to say what happened before the Big Bang. What that time would look like to us, who knows? Because it would not be tied up with the space time we usually experience. But at a fundamental level, it might make sense, probably from a theoretical physics perspective. I don't know. I'm not a
And
physicist,
Flum,
obviously.
before you respond or say, I think what we're actually going to do is go to outros, and I'm just going to put you big screen, and you can say whatever you like. Because, ladies and gentlemen, we have been Skeptic and Ranting on Scientific Discovery Reveals God's Existence and Refutes Atheism. However, we are heading into our outros.
Moving into extra innings. Praise Rush Ball.
That's right. Flum, we have been Skeptic and Ranting on Scientific Discovery Reveals God's Existence and Refutes Atheism. It has been lovely having you on. What you got going on, and what are your final thoughts?
Well, I love this discussion. It's like the one I most engaged with. Is that right? So when you take these old ideas from Copernicus, from Newton, Einstein, everybody, and you say, well, they're all Christian ideas. And that's what the Christians do. You have to point to, but they're not Christian ideas. They're Christian people, maybe some of them are not. That's always such a fun debate. Like, are the ideas in the Bible? No, they're not. Never. So that's all.
Thank you, Flum. It was lovely having you on, and I agree. This is an
was great.
interesting discussion. And like James said earlier, we need to keep on having these discussions because these are the arguments that theists keep on delivering to us. But thank you so very much. And all right, James, we have been Skeptic and Ranting. This was a lovely
what this
video
is?
that you
That's
brought
what
us.
this is.
That's right. Gizmo has been saying hi, but what are your final thoughts?
Yeah. So it's interesting to see like how far back we pushed the god, where they need to invoke him, which is pretty much the hardest, most limited area of our scientific studies: origin of life, origin of the universe, the you know, things that happened a long time ago as a singular event, very difficult to study, wrapped up with philosophical implications, especially the beginning of the universe. But just like we found out the God hypothesis wasn't very good for answering other questions, I'm confident that once we do know enough about origin of life, origin of the universe, the idea of invoking a god will be equally as silly as it was to invoke gods for lightning, or, you know, other strange phenomena to equate a flood with God being mad at somebody for something, or these other silly things that our ancestors did because they just had such a limited amount of knowledge about the natural world. They had to hypothesize, and God was a convenient way of explaining all that. We don't like unknowns. We don't like, saying I don't know can be very scary. Even if the truth is scary, not knowing a lot of times is even scarier. At least if you know, I mean, yeah. Anyway, thanks, guys. We love you guys. Thanks, Amy.
Thank you, James. Thank you, Flum, for coming on. We had fun on this episode of Skeptic and Ranting. Scientific discovery reveals God's existence and refutes atheism. Where, yes, we watched a video. I know. James, it really was, right?
Clickbait.
Where we watched from the channel.
Like, we're going to give you evidence. Yeah, we're going to give it. Psych. No evidence.
It was. And they didn't even attempt. They ended up complaining about a different subject.
Going to do that? You thought we were really going to give you evidence for God? Huh, you fucking suckers. We just made you watch a 20-minute video for nothing.
Exactly. Wouldn't a better title have been like, Theists Can Also Believe in Science? Because he doesn't go after refuting atheism. He doesn't say why science proves God.
Well, I mean, you could say, like, 95% of fundamentalist Christians accept the globe, which is probably true. But 100% of the people that don't accept the globe are basically fundamentalist Christians.
Yes, so, absolutely.
Most of them are on board with it, but out of all the ones who are not on board with it, most of it is them.
Yep. John, where we watched the video, John Lennox, Scientific Discovery Reveals God's Existence and Refutes Atheism. But you're right. It's even, like, even Iron, he's like a crazy friggin' theist, even if he's not Abrahamic. They all have to believe in this weird creator. I haven't met an atheist flat earther. I'm sure they're out there, but
met Adam Lore, an atheist who didn't believe in evolution.
Didn't believe in evolution. But when I said, do you believe in around Earth? He got. I can't tell if it's actual offense or not. It's always like, oh, how dare you? This is what they all do to me. I mean,
because it really is
not a fact.
Not much more ridiculous than rejecting the globe. Rejecting evolution.
Yep.
Really
where 6,000 to 10,000 year old Earth as well. Just it's just nonsense. So for a good revealing good time, I was about to say for a good revealing time. Or a revealing good time. You decide. It's a choose your own adventure.
For a good time, call 326-587-3411.
Operators are standing by. But
credit card, you got it.
PayPal, Venmo, whatever you got. Oh, I do want to thank my co-host, James W., as well as Flum, our panel, as well as our super chatters, Luke and Left-Handed Jedi and Mubarak as well as all of the lovely people in chat, our awesome mods who make the stream so great, and lovely viewers like you who make this channel even possible. Please don't forget to like, follow, or subscribe.
They want to hear Gizmo's final
And
thoughts.
go now. But yes, also sending love to Gizmo and all of the cats and puppies out there. Or if you got an iguana, whatever you're into. I know Matt
Alligator, turkey.
has his lizards. Matt Narden.
Bree has got
I
all
love
kinds of shit.
Bree has a lot of fantastic
Ron Ron's
creatures and
got
crawlers.
quite a few snakes, I believe.
He has his snakes. My niece has a snake. I like snakes. I like all animals because I'm weird.
I've never been.
Then
really
again, it's not
partial
so
to-
weird after we just listened to all the people that we just listed. The geeks
More
are taking
partial to
over.
mammals.
Yeah, I know. There's probably evolutionary reasons for that. And yet, I can be won over by certain species that most people, not most people, a lot of people, but there are people, weird people that like them. Like, I like a hairy spider. I can, like, a black widow spider, I'm probably going to be scared of. But the big hairy tarantula, that guy just wants to roam around. I also tell the kids, and I hear this all over. Our parents probably told this to us, but whenever you see a bee and they freak out, they're more afraid of you than you are of them. You are giant. You are just so. You are. I was gonna say, not even metaphorically or hyperbolic. You are a literal giant compared to this organism, and so they're probably having a heart attack.
You're way too big for them to eat.
Yeah. Thought I heard a cat. Speaking of cats. But yes, then after you subscribe to the channel, you can hit that bell icon, which when hit to all will allow you to see our premieres or join our live streams. Or
Amy couldn't
hey,
either, Mr. Korean.
What can I do?
She kill spiders. She'll release
I
roaches out.
know,
She'll
I
release them
do.
outside. She can't kill a roach.
To me, it's killing a chain that has been unbroken for 4.5 billion years. I sound like I'm about to shove a crystal up somewhere when I talk like this, but it's true.
Like everyone's shoved up right now.
What's up, David? Divine Broadcast. I feel bad. We're about to end Claws. We're about to check out, but it has been fantastic. See, I even feel more bad because you're saying, like, hi. You're like all sunshined and happy. But keep on saying hi because we love it. But it's about to be 3 a.m. here, and we had a great stream. And like James says, there's going to be more because it's about not only, and I know I've been saying this to James now for like a year plus now, but I'm almost caught up. I have finally been grading as not as fast as possible, but at a nice rate where I can actually relax and read the paper, and I'm caught up. And all I have to do is be caught up on these grades on these K through 12, which it will be this weekend.
Get back to your 18-hour porn marathons.
Yes.
You really devoted yourself to studying porn and.
What was the?
That was the preacher.
The preacher.
Said he locked himself in a room for like 6 months, 18 hours a day, reading the Bible, and that's how he confirmed and developed his theology. Yeah. Said even when his wife and kids would come in there and try to distract him or need something from him, he told them to fuck off, get the fuck out of here, don't bother me.
That's right. I'm reading.
Do you remember that broadcast where Perry brought his wife on with him?
Oh my goodness,
and,
yes I do.
Like she's like, yeah, he really believes this crazy shit.
Yeah, I know.
Exasperated, just that look of being like, he's like, oh, tell him, don't I say this kind of shit all the time at home? Like, yeah, he does. This is exactly how he is at home too. He's like this all the fucking time.
just trying to drag herself away from the camera.
This is not
I'm
an
sorry.
act. This is not a show he's putting on for you guys. Well, this is just Perry.
I agree. I have not won the mom joke of the night. The mom joke of the night goes to, if a teacher is late getting your papers back to you, are those tardigrades? I love tardigrades. Who doesn't love tardigrades, though? They are so fucking adorable.
Evil Knievel.
Probably. I have a tardigrade. Where's my tardigrade? Come on, tardigrade. It's your time to shine. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Tardigrade representing this house.
I heard that, Danny. I haven't seen the video of it yet, but I did hear that somebody
Yeah, really
supposedly self-immolated. I don't know.
Oh my goodness. Well, that's one way to be more orange than him. I'm so sorry to whoever they are.
And you just buy a lot of spray tan, like in industrial bulk size. I mean, you'll get there.
There's a picture, and you just saw the difference between his face and his hands. It's so superficial to even care about that stuff, and yet it bothers
his face
me.
Is much more tan than his arms or hands.
Yes. Like he
doesn't do a whole body focus
that showed him like this or whatever, or like this, and you could see the hand and a complete
not even
contrast.
Too lazy to cover his whole body. Just do the face. Focus on that.
Just do the face.
What makes him the money?
I just wonder if he goes into a place and he says, "I'll take the '80s. I want the '80s right here. Whatever they were doing. I want also." You just to hit me with a color that was popular in the 80s. Oh my goodness.
He doesn't want to be one of these blue, pink hair femo Nazis.
That's right. No. He wants to I'd probably say have sex with them, but then no, that's more like Stormy. He's more into probably blondes.
Well, I mean, let's face it, who's not? And that's really something. I showed Amy this a few days ago. I keep getting spammed this ad from the Mormon Church with these two attractive-looking young ladies, a brunette and a blonde, inviting you to come to church. These are like early mid-20s girls, naturally attractive looking, and I'm like, this is just so like obvious what they're trying to do. They're like, hey, do you like cute girls? You like pretty young women? We've got them here. We've got them at Mormon Church. Come to the Mormon Church.
You'll like a guy that looked into a hat.
Yeah. Yeah. You might think the Book of Mormon sounds stupid, but you know who doesn't? These cute young ladies. They're in on it. They think it's real. So
they're giggling while they look at you and they look at a Book of Mormon and have special underpants.
They want you to come to church with them. Yeah, they want you to come to church.
And I always say I see
sex sells in any field. Even the church is not beyond using sex
apparently
to recruit.
And I just want to go on record saying I like all hair types, all hair colors, and all skin types, as long as you got curves.
Like I'm a little thick.
Listen, curvy. I'm okay with thin, but yeah, nothing wrong with little curves. It's
I mean, I guess it's like everybody has like a natural size that their body wants to gravitate to, and like if your body is set up to be a little on the thick side, you might not look very good thin, or if you're supposed to be a little thicker.
Yeah, sometimes you seem like you're supposed to be built one way. Yeah,
there are very thin people who are attractive, and there's people who are bigger who are also attractive.
Like I say, I'm okay with I'm okay either way. It's cute and gullible.
Come on down, tight. Purple Rhymes over. Yeah, come on down.
Come to the Mormon Church.
Yeah, all that crazy shit that they never found evidence for. Reformed Egyptian. These cute girls believe Reformed Egyptian was real. They believe that. If you want to have a chance to date one of them, you better believe it too.
My craziest thing is we've had a Mormon on here, and they like just absorb some of the stupidness and just I hate to say giggle it off, but like laugh it off, but say, yeah, I know. Do you remember once we had a Mormon on and we asked him about the Reformed Egyptian? We're like, and that's not a real language. And he's like, yeah, it turns out that's not.
Wow.
And we're like, and any change on views? Are we
All these
gonna
supposed
leave?
cities that existed in North America that they never found archaeological evidence for. Yeah.
There's
keep
always-
looking. They'll eventually find it.
There's always an obsession with recreating, these Abrahamic religions. Apparently, the Jews had to be in Mississippi. That makes sense. I knew a lot of Jews in Mississippi.
And a lot of kosher delis in Mississippi.
A lot of kosher delis. Exactly. Yeah. That's where the Garden of Eden is, though.
The gefilte fish state, I believe, is.
I would say you can't make this shit up, but you actually can. It is actually quite easy.
Mississippi, the gefilte fish state.
It's what it's known for.
Yeah. You go to your gas station, gefilte fish for sale all the time.
Listen, I'll take some things. I'll take matzah because it's a giant cracker, but not matzo balls. They can have matzo balls.
I'm not big on matzo balls.
Purple, you're born the son of a carpenter in a Jewish village. Is your mother a virgin? We were talking about that earlier, just how weird that would be to think that going throughout your life.
Tell the kids at school are saying, like, your mom is a whore. Like, you know what? My mom is so not a whore. She's never had sex. Ever.
I'm not from a sperm, apparently.
Well, I mean, it was a holy sperm.
It's a holy sperm.
From God. Yeah. She said so.
You think God played slow music? I think so.
Kenny G probably would be like a Kenny G type of God.
I think so. We've gotten so far off tangent. Or hey, leave a comment once the video's done. We basically went back into it. We can't help it, James. After the show, the Skeptic and Ranting Discord right down there. The link. It is true. We may every once in a while we rant. That might be a theme. The link of which is in the description with our amazing channel members. Lastly, if you'd like to help us make even more content, help keep the lights on, patreon.com/Amy Newman. Bye, Gizmo. Gizmo's so cute. I'm Amy Newman. This is James W. And with Flum, the entire Skeptic and Ranting community sends love.
You did die.
Yes. Dedicating this episode, y'all, to Daniel Dennett, who we have indeed lost today. He was a great speaker, a more softer touch than probably the other four horsemen. However, a great asset, a great mind. And, like I said, I will be debating within my own head whether qualia is a real thing. So I get it from both sides on atheists, and so I'm still trying to decide myself. We do need an episode on qualia now.
We'll get there.
But all right, I think with that, is there anyone I can send you off to? Let me look real quick. ACA is doing their... They have their forever.
Scoundrels, welcome. You just came for the end.
Oh, sending love. I know. Sending so much love to everybody who was joining us. You should go check out Eric on all the fantastic channels and content that he does. And Phil Talk. I'm trying to think if there's any other. I've been trying to think of other atheists I could shout out before we leave. There was one, and then I just forgot it. Sending so much love. To Godless Granny starts in a few hours. Go sign up for her. Yeah.
Good night, guys. We love you.
We can only drag. Sending so much love. I would go on forever. Not the literal forever, because then we get into the hell and the heaven and the afterlife shtick. Anyway, I love you all. We love you all.
The cock and the balls. It's a whole thing.
Exactly. We will see you all on the next episode of Skeptic Ballsy. Good night, y'all. Mwah. Ha 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 ha. Ha ha ha.